Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is Michelle, and who's here with me?
It's JD.
It's JD. It's always JD. It's always us, you guys.
Is still down one toe. Still JD 9 toes. Probably forever.
So even though you have been present during every one that we have done so far, not all of you is still present during all of the episodes.
Right. And I got to be honest with you. I have a story brewing in the back of my mind about how that toe might have been cursed and that it needed to come off because, man, my depression has completely taken a 180 in the last week or so since they chopped that sucker off, and that's really weird. You would think that having a toe amputated would not improve your relationship with your depression. But as it turns out, welcome to Therapy with JD on another episode of We Watch Shudder.
I want to try that. I will absolutely lose a toe.
Next time you're really depressed,
die.
ask your doctor if he'll just cut off one of your toes.
I absolutely will.
I don't know. You should probably stick specifically to the fourth toe on your right foot just for scientific consistency.
Is that the one beside the big toe or the little toe? Which direction?
The one
is the
right before the pinky. The one, the fourth toe.
So
the big toe is number one.
An unimportant one. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could absolutely lose that one. I would also like to lose the pinky toe. I have weird pinky toes.
Yeah.
So if I could lose that one and make the depression stop, that would be great.
There was a slight possibility they were going to have to take both of them. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like the idea of my foot now making like a weird like horns gesture all on its own because it's missing a toe.
It's like a two in the pink, one in the stink.
Right, I was just about to say it's like my foot is now a shocker. It's like a
that's shocking.
with actually three in. It's a 3-in-1 rather than a 2. Anyway, wow, this has gone completely off the rails. I promise. We watch movies and talk about them on this podcast, guys. We don't talk about amputation and weird sexual things. I mean, we talk about those things, but usually in the context of horror movies and not our personal lives.
Usually. I do like getting medical advice from podcasters, though. So this is
that reminds me, by the way, are you I don't remember. Did you want to see these creepy, gross photos of my foot all mangled to hell from the surgery?
Obviously, I do.
I'll have to hook you up with those. Anyway,
nice.
We got a movie to talk
about today.
I'll pay you
for it. That's how people make that living. Okay, so
they are feet
movie.
pics. I mean, they are. There's some interesting feet pics, but holy shit!
I demanded a whole foot. This is only 95% of one. You get a discount for each toe that's gone.
80% actually of a foot. One less toe out of 5. Anyway.
Yeah, but
I just ruined everything with math.
20%.
Michelle, please save us. Talk about the movie. What's the movie?
We watched Spoonful of Sugar, which is Shudder's latest original film. It was just released today, aka March 2nd. So, we watched it. And we're gonna talk
if this is the first time you're checking out an episode, first of all, you're welcome for the mutilation discussion right up front. But yeah, we watch original and exclusive releases from Shudder, one of the premier genre streaming services in the world. This is the new one, Spoonful of Sugar, that we're talking about today. Sometimes we will read the description of the movie from the Shudder website. Are we doing that today, Michelle?
Yes, or not from the Shudder website. The Shudder website is very, very spoilery.
Yeah, it's
but
got
the one from
some
IMDb
crucial spoilery things
is
there.
Good.
But, guys, so we went and investigated the IMDb page, and let me tell you, this is, like, they went out of their way to be not spoilery with this description to the extent that you're going to love it when you hear it. It's amazing. Michelle, do you want to read it to the good folks?
I would love to read this. Okay, so
this is the
sugar.
complete plot summary, the introductory little tidbit to hook you on the movie from the IMDb profile page. Go ahead.
Millicent is taking a semester off from her studies to take care of Johnny, a sickly mute child with severe allergies. His mother, Rebecca, is an author, and his father, Jacob, is a carpenter.
And that's it. That's the whole description from the Internet Movie Database. They really, really didn't want to tell you anything at all about this movie, Spoonful of Sugar. Directed by Mercedes Bryce Morgan, written by Leah St. Marie, I believe a feature debut for both of them. They've got some short work in their past and some other things, but Michelle, you want to tell these folks your spoiler-free thoughts on the new Shudder release, Spoonful of Sugar?
I will definitely try. This is one that I feel conflicted about, which I know I say a lot, but it's just hard for me when there are parts of a movie that I really like and parts of a movie that I don't really like. This one has a little bit of each. There's one decision that was made in this movie that kept taking me out of the fantasy of it, but yet there's some stuff that's really good. Since I am having a hard time figuring out how I feel about it, I'm just going to go right down the middle and go with a 2.5.
2.5 skulls from Michelle on Spoonful of Sugar. I agree with a lot of that, but maybe even a little bit more. This movie didn't work for me. I understand what's going on here. I saw the themes that they were trying to work with. But the script just doesn't work for me. The way the plot develops, I had no emotional connection here. I wasn't drawn in by any of the performances, unfortunately. There are bits and pieces of it that are just, I don't know. I was never fully immersed in the story. Things kind of happen without the right development, or they just come out of left field. It almost feels like a lot of just what's a weird thing we can do now just to do a weird thing, and kind of layering things. Also, I'm not even entirely certain what, if anything, the movie was trying to say about the themes that it was presenting. Maybe it wasn't trying to say anything or have any kind of a message, and that's fine. But I wasn't able to sort out whether it was or not, and if it was, what was it trying to say? There are a lot of really disparate elements in here. Some things where I'm just like, well, wait, who's supposed to be my linchpin here? Who am I supposed to be rooting for? Or what's the arc I'm looking for? I just never got connected with it in any way. This is like there are a couple of things in it that I thought were interesting ideas, but this is like a skull and a half for me.
Whoa, 1.5. So that actually is easy math. That gives us a 2.
I would like to point out, actually, and this is going to surprise the heck out of Michelle and everybody else probably, I actually watched this movie twice today. I watched it once right away this morning when I first got up, and I thought maybe I just was in a weird headspace and maybe was a little distracted, so I decided I had some time. I'd go back and check it out again, and no, it just there were a couple of little things I missed the first time that I picked up on the second time, but nothing that saved the movie for me.
I actually did the same thing. Awesome. I made it halfway through and then thought maybe I'm just not in the right headspace. And I also gave it a bit and went back and rewatched it and determined that I also still felt kind of meh about it. That's why some of these ones where you don't just outright hate or don't outright love, and you're like, definitely some people are going to like this. It's just not that I'm one of them. It's those ones that are so difficult to come down on a rating with, because I'm like, I don't feel super strongly about this.
This isn't a movie that did things that I was like upset about. You know, the movie didn't anger me in any way. I don't have it in for this movie. It just didn't work for me at all.
Yep, I agree.
All right, guys. So that's our spoiler-free section. If you want to go see what possibly could have inspired such a thoroughly meh, averaging out to a 2 out of 5 skull rating, a 1.5 and a 2.5 there from me and Michelle, respectively, without any deep spoilers other than the kid is sick and mute, the mom is an author, and the dad is a carpenter. You are going to want to hit that pause button right about meow. All right, did you come back? Did you never leave? Are you listening still? Gosh, I sure hope so. Michelle, why don't we go to that thing here now where, for those folks who are just listening for our salient and entertaining commentary on these films, why don't you run through a quick synopsis of just generally what happens in Spoonful of Sugar, and then we'll talk about why this really didn't work for me.
Yeah, so there is a woman/girl, we will get into that, named Millicent, who decides to babysit a child. The child is mute. I believe he is portrayed as having autism, but I don't think they ever really say that. He has a lot of allergies to the point where he wears oh my god, why did I forget astronaut? I almost said an airplane man, an astronaut costume and helmet in order to go outside and be protected from the dangers of the world. Millicent is messed up in the brain. She does LSD. She gives LSD to the kid. They bond. The kid's parents, the author and the carpenter, are bad people. Millicent's not a good person. The kid, I mean, he's young, but he's also not a good person. There's no good people in this movie. And then at the end, the kid kills Millicent, and they're like, oh, it happened again. We're going to have to plant more trees. The end.
Yeah. I mean, that pretty much covers it. I think the crucial element of what you talked about there in the progression of this plot is that none of these characters are likable. Like the kid isn't even likable. He's the least unlikable of them, but he's unlikable for the reason that, like, so you've got the kid who is mute, non-communicative. He might be allergic to a bunch of things. He might not be. His mom might be a little overbearing. There's some suggestion back and forth about how severe this really is and what might actually be going on there, and if it is that bad, maybe should he be somewhere else. But it's very clear that his parents are having a terrible relationship. The husband is obviously screwing around on the wife, and she knows and just doesn't give a shit anymore.
Screwing because he's a carpenter. Screwing.
Right, you see what I did there? I'm real clever. But it becomes apparent that a lot of who he's screwing along the way are the babysitters. And then he's a jerk and she's a jerk. And then Millicent, Millie, or maybe Emily, or maybe Mary Beth, or any one of a number of aliases she uses throughout the movie, like, she is a crazy person who has been traumatized by years of sexual abuse in assorted foster situations, and is now kind of psychotic and has actually left a trail of bodies, we eventually learn, of all of these people who abused her as a child. But it's like, then, like, the crazy, driven, psychotic, LSD, drug-addled nanny woman is the one who gets through to the boy. I guess maybe the point we were supposed to take from that was helping us understand is like, oh, no, the boy is a broken person as well. He's clearly got no he's almost like a Michael Myers type, right? Like, no well-developed sense of human empathy or anything. He's incredibly violent. Turns out the kid has probably killed more than one babysitter over the course of their lifetime, and they just keep burying him in, they keep layering more and more bad here, right? There's no foothold. Like, there's nobody to root for. There's nobody to bond with that makes you worry about what the other people are going to do to them, because I just didn't care about any of these people. The only person I remotely cared about for a moment was the old fella Roger that Millicent was clearly taking advantage of, until they flip him on his head, and he's clearly just been another foster parent or somebody who's just been waiting for his turn to fuck the girl anyway. And like, he becomes this creepy, like, everybody is bad. There's
even
nothing.
The therapist.
Yeah,
she
even
reveals,
the therapist.
like, oh, you're also a bad person. Literally, every single person who you're rooting for, you even feel bad for Millicent, and then no, she's a bad person.
Right, yeah, and a lot of that also just kind of happens, right? It didn't feel like there was any sense of development. It was just like, oh, we turned the corner, and oh, she was sexually abused by a number of foster dads, and then we turn another corner, and oh, she killed them, and then oh, the boy is also actually a secret killer. It eventually, by the end, when when there's that moment after he kills Millicent, which I wasn't so surprising. But then they get into that moment where it's like, oh, now we're burying the bodies, burying the body in the backyard, and as it turns out, there's a whole bunch of bodies back there, and we may have to. And now they're just like, oh, we also cover up murders too, because well, you gotta love your. There was just so many disparate elements and so many things that seemed in conflict with each other. There was nothing here for me to latch on to. From an emotional standpoint, I didn't care about any one of these people or anything that happened to them, and that's a problem.
Mm-hmm. I have a short list of things that I had to talk about. One
Sure.
thing, I loved the ending. That actually gave it a higher score for me because
Oh, really?
I liked that the movie made a strong commitment to something and it said, yes, this whole family is bad people. That gives you the ability to actually root for whatever direction they're in. It's kind of like a devil's reject situation where everybody is bad. They're clearly not good people, but that's such a strong component that you at least have a storyline that you can latch on to, and you can still be like, okay, I guess we're gonna watch these bad people be bad and do their thing, and try not to get caught for killing all of these babysitters. And I'm okay with them making that strong commitment to something, and it was the most intriguing thing that happened for me, was this very strong, like, oh, the kid's not as he doesn't have like as much mental illness as he is just a murderer, a crazy murderer.
He's a child psychopath. He's a we need to talk about Kevin, right? He's a Michael Myers. That's clearly what they're driving at with this character, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. There's one other thing I do want to talk about, but I want to listen to it's always interesting to me when you make lists.
Well, my other
'cause you make a lot of them.
I make so many lists. I like lists. Keeps my life in order. Okay, the other thing, and this is gonna feel weird to state, but it is specific to this movie. The casting choice, Millicent, she was very old for this role. It was like a Riverdale situation. I went to her IMDb page. She is 28 or 29. I did not do the math. They say she just turned 18, but I am not saying that the person who plays Millicent is old looking by any means, and that's why I feel weird saying that.
She definitely didn't play 18.
But she did not play 18, and it was such a distracting element that I thought that was going to be part of the story, and I was waiting for it, because there is a huge difference between an 18-year-old and a 28-year-old, and I think her innocence that they tried to bestow upon her doesn't come across, because it feels like she's a fraud living this life and tricking people the whole movie, as opposed to if they had actually gotten someone who at least played 18, not necessarily is an 18-year-old, because there's a lot of heavy stuff in here. But if they had gotten somebody who looked as innocent as they are being in this movie, I think that would have been a bigger, more important thing because honestly, that took me out a lot. I kept thinking like it's going to be revealed that we've got like an orphan situation or something where this is, or a hard candy kind of thing. I was expecting there to be a reveal, to the point where when it didn't happen, I was confused.
Right, like oh, it actually turns out she's like pushing 30, and that's an extra level of her twist, and that never happened. Yeah.
Yeah, and even with the way it's written, I'm not 100% sure that she's not supposed to be a person in their 20s, and that's how she's getting into all these foster homes. And like,
I guess now that I think about that, because that idea hadn't occurred to me until you just brought it up. But the more I think about it, I think the only person who ever specifically refers to her as having just turned 18 is Roger, the guy who she eventually kills because he's a creep and has been waiting. Like, maybe he just is another person that she's convinced is only that age, but they also never address it outright, so there's no way to say for sure one way or the other.
Exactly. When she starts saying that she's had all these different names, I started thinking like, okay, so is that the reveal? But it's just not a strong enough thing that they do. And I even thought like, okay, I could get her being a college student. And then the description that we didn't read said that she was taking a semester off or something. So that implies college.
I don't even remember that being mentioned anywhere in the movie at all. Did I just
Neither do I.
That?
And the line that I do remember, though, is Roger saying that he hasn't even seen a report card from her, which implies high school. Right. That's not something you get in college. So it's such a thing that I feel bad latching on, because there's this whole thing about, women being too old in Hollywood. And I think that's a gross thing. But I do think that her not looking more 18, I mean, there's a big difference between 18 and late 20s.
Well,
it distracted me.
I think that's also sort of indicative of a lot of issues with this movie. Like, another thing, like, the movie is oddly sexual in ways that make no sense, right? Like, I don't understand what they were trying. Like, I get it. Okay, so the dad is fooling around on the mom with a lot of the babysitters that the boy ends up killing, and she is aware of it, and she just doesn't even care anymore because she's psychotically obsessed with protecting her murder son. So it's but it's just kind of there, and they don't really. It never felt like they did anything with it, right? They presented us with all of these elements, but they never blended and gelled together to form an engrossing story.
Yeah, there were so many elements that I was intrigued by. There were too many intriguing elements and not enough strong commitments to any of them. I'm still, like you said, not sure, was there a message? If there was a message, what was it? Was anybody supposed to be likable? Was I supposed to relate to anybody? But if I'm looking at it specifically as just like is this a fun, entertaining thing to watch? Then I'm on the fence of like, maybe, yeah, there's some interesting things to see. But if you're watching it for the story, it really fell apart for me. And that's why it was so like, I don't know how to feel about this one. Because like I said, I like the ending. I like when you commit to just everybody's bad and we're just watching them be bad people. I like that. But I could not tell who was supposed to be bad and was Millicent a fraud and is the boy. They don't make me feel any sort of empathy towards him. They don't give him anything for us to relate to and be like, oh, this poor child, aside from, showing us as parents are awful people. So yeah, there's just a lot. And I wanted to like it. I hate disliking movies. I hate hating movies more than the movie
movies,
itself.
I promise I'm on your side.
Yeah, I wanted to like it. But also, like you said, this is a debut for both the writer and director. So I think there's promise there. They just...
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I needed more. I'm so sorry.
The other thing that I want to talk about, just briefly, obviously I can't speak for anyone else's experience, right? Like, I don't know. I can't say for sure how things affect other people, but I've done a pretty decent amount of LSD in my life. And I know a lot of people who have also done a pretty decent amount of LSD in my life. And this is not in any way. I have taken a significant... Look, there's no point in me mentioning the actual dosages because, like, maybe one person listening is going to understand what that means in context. I have taken significant doses of LSD. I have never seen somebody's finger fall off their hand, crawl across the floor, up my leg, and into my mouth. Right? I have never seen a drawing of a rabbit jump off a piece of paper, fly around the room, and land on a different piece of paper. I have never seen weird monster creature faces show up in the diamond pattern on my shower curtain. Like, don't get me wrong, I have seen some shit, right? But it's all... I have to go back to one of the most impressive displays of illustrating this, how this really works, or at least in my experience, is Ari Aster's Midsommar. The way they presented the psychedelic experience is really, really accurate. Like things move and pulse and do things they shouldn't, but you don't just see random shit that's not there. It's all rooted in the actual input that your body is receiving through your senses, just filtered through the drugs. And that really disconnected me from this in a lot of ways as well. So she's microdosing, right? You're not going to experience even mild hallucinations on a microdose. Also, you would never be able to microdose that regularly, consistently. Your tolerance to LSD builds up incredibly quickly on an exponential rate. And even if she kept taking more and more of it, eventually it would work less and less and less. You have to eventually stop and let your system clean out completely. And the fact that I know those things was a real problem for me with this movie. It was a very unrealistic, I feel, portrayal of the LSD experience.
And if microdosing doesn't work for you, you can always cut off a toe.
Right.
I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because until I read in the description that this was supposed to be LSD, for a significant amount of this movie, I thought she was just having hallucinations and that the whatever she was taking just exacerbated it. But I completely agree. I have never done LSD. I don't like drugs. I am a scary person in my brain to begin with. I don't need to add to it. Personal thing, obviously, if you do drugs, I'm indifferent to you doing that. I can't be trapped in my own head like that. So
it can be intense. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I don't want to. That's terrifying to me. But the even I know LSD because I've talked to you about Midsommar, for example. I've talked to friends of mine about their experiences. I'm fascinated from like a bystander perspective, and I'm like, that is not LSD. And the fact that she's giving it to the kid and then he's having hallucinations is like, what? No, that's not. Even I know that's not how that works.
Yeah.
If that's what I thought was just an unnamed drug for a long time, and then finding out that it's supposed to be LSD just
and she even calls it lysergic acid by name, or in that initial interview with the mother when they're sitting there at the kitchen table. Also, something that I noticed because I did go back and watch it a second time, there are a couple of little foreshadowing moments, like when Millicent first meets the father. He says something to he says, like, "What, are you trying to rob me or something?" And then he says, "All of my all of my valuables are buried in the backyard," which I thought was that's kind of. But like, if you weren't looking for it, you would never, because they don't build to that, right? It just happens. So by the time it happens, like, I've completely forgotten about that line. And so, yeah, I think it could have used a little bit more script development, maybe picking a couple of the things that they were doing, pulling some of the other things out, streamlining and really developing those ideas into more of an arc and more of a flow of story. Rather than just, it did ultimately end up feeling like we're just trying to tell a creepy story that keeps turning in on itself, and then by the end of it, you don't like, oh, everybody's monsters. Roll credits.
Yeah, that's actually, like I said, where if I'm just watching this as an entertaining thing and giving zero context to each scene as I am watching it, it's still not great for me, but it's fine if that's all that they were doing. There's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't enjoy from that perspective either. So
sure,
it's kind of all over the place for me.
All right, so I think we beat that dead horse plenty here. That's our thoughts on Spoonful of Sugar on Shudder. You know, I mean, definitely check it out if you have time. We're just people with opinions. You might disagree. I believe as of right now, it does have an aggregate 4-skull rating on Shudder so far for the ratings from the day. So clearly, people are enjoying it a bit more than we did. But I wonder if what's his name left a review. Nope, he's not on here.
Oh,
What was his
Fashion.
name? Fashion. You're disappointing me, Fashioned. You're not on this list anywhere. I was really
because
hoping you'd be
Skinamarink
on
came
there.
out. He's good now.
Right, he's done. He's
He's
done.
not on any other movies.
So what do we got coming up next week, Michelle?
Next week, we have Dearest Sister, which is an older exclusive because there is not a new Shudder film.
Right.
So we're going to watch Dearest Sister, and then we got Leave coming out after that. That's a new film. And we got Wrestling that same week, so that's going to be a busy day.
Dearest Sister, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that movie is from Laos.
I have not looked.
I believe it's Laotian. Let's
I
find out.
believe you.
Dearest Sister. It's in a language called Lao. That's Laotian, isn't it? It's
I
gotta
believe
be.
so.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's yeah.
Yes, Lao.
Yeah. It's
Lao
from,
capital.
It's from Laos.
This is such an
Laos.
exciting bit. Yeah, it is from Laos, Estonia, and France, apparently.
Oh,
What
wow.
an exciting tidbit for our listeners. It's on IMDb.
Right. And then the week after that, we have a new original and/or exclusive release called Leave. Yeah, just Leave.
Leave.
Just get out. Not to be confused with Get Out. It's just Leave.
Or The
Leave.
Bye-Bye Man. Different.
Right. And then the week after that, we have another archive title. We're going to do
Sadako versus
Sadako
Kayako?
versus Kayako.
Okay.
So I think it's the girl from The Ring versus the girl from The Grudge. It's also, I believe, directed by the fellow who did Noroi the Curse.
My favorite movie. JD loves Noroi. I highly recommend checking out that Spooktober episode.
That could be an interesting week. And then wrapping up the month with another original and/or exclusive that is called, Michelle?
The Unheard.
The Unheard. Side note, by the way, you can keep up to date on that full schedule of what we have coming up for our episode releases this month at our website, wewatchshudder.com. You can also check us out on various social medias, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at wewatchshudder. We've got information up on those places as well. Michelle, one thing I will point out about Spoonful of Sugar, some quality squelching in this one.
I didn't watch it with subtitles.
Oh, when that very first shot when the dude's finger hits the floor and starts crawling across the floor, just a severed finger crawling, just squelching. Yeah. Oh, there's some good squelches in this one.
I'll go back and grab them for sure because
Right on.
we have to add them to the Squelch Files.
The Squelch Files,
which is on our website, where I am just collecting squelches.
Michelle
except
is
I
on a
have a new
mission to
laptop.
collect every use of the word squelch and every variation of the word squelch
Yep.
in a subtitle in any movie ever made. We
Yep.
currently have something like 600 images.
Like
captured.
480 on the website currently. I'm trying to pace putting more out on there.
Pardon me.
So
Only 480 on the website.
It was a very busy month. I'm a crazy person where I'm just sitting there doing that. I went to my husband's family's place for the Super Bowl, and everybody's enjoying the Super Bowl, and I'm sitting there on my laptop with a show or a movie muted, just waiting for the squelch to happen so I can screenshot and save it and go to the next one. And everybody's just looking at my screen like, what are you doing? I'm collecting squelches. Leave me alone.
Right. Also, we do have a plan in place, hopefully sometime soon. We are going to be trying to record and drop a special bonus episode featuring Eric Morrison, the promoter and owner and general man behind the madness at Time Bomb Pro Wrestling. We've got a special movie selected that we're going to watch, kind of step outside our do another we don't watch Shudder kind of thing. Sort of step outside the box a little bit. I'm not going to tell you anything more about it than that. We do intend to get it recorded and dropped before our next live appearance at Time Bomb Pro Wrestling here to stay here in Fargo on March 16th, 2 weeks from today. That's 316. As Austin 316 says, I just whipped your ass. That's a good day for a wrestling show, is all I'm trying to say, guys.
day.
If you're in the Fargo-Moorhead area, tickets are still available online. Just Google Time Bomb Pro and you'll get there. I think there's a couple of VIP tables. There's some general admission seats. Ringside seats are sold the fuck out. You missed your opportunity. They got some cool meet and greet stuff going on there. Make sure you check all that stuff out.
Yeah, and you can come hang out with us. Like
Hell
we
yeah.
hung out and just sat at somebody's table last time because
Yeah.
they were there by themselves for a little bit, and we went, "Do you want to hang out with some horror podcast hosts
Right,
for a little
right.
bit? This
People-
wrestling show."
We're people who knows people, and we get to do cool things sometimes.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
cool. All I will say about that upcoming episode is that I scrambled to watch this movie and then read the book very quickly.
And then my life fell apart.
Yeah, I devoted so much time, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready. I have also argued with one of my friends about the book. I am so amped because it was a very, very heated argument about the book versus the
fun.
movie. I'm
yeah,
ready.
we intended to try and record that special episode a couple of weeks ago, and then, like I said, they cut one of my toes off, and I spent a week in the hospital. And
Not a good enough excuse. I had to
listen here.
read a whole book in 2 days.
Nobody made you read a book, Michelle.
But I had to.
All I
because the
needed,
movie
all
is
I asked
based
you to
on
do
the
was watch
book.
the movie. You did that to yourself.
Yeah,
So-
I can't half-ass anything. Look at the Squelch Files.
I think people have probably some of the more clever amongst you are putting it together. Oh, it's a movie, and then it's based on a book, and it's something they're doing with the wrestling guy. You can probably sort this out, but that's all you're gonna get. Make sure you keep an ear peeled for that. It'll be coming out when it comes out. When? I don't know, guys. I don't know. You know
will
what I
say
do
that
know?
the movie is available for streaming at home now, so there's a better chance that we will be watching it soon.
Yeah, but I think it's just on video on demand. And then
I'll
it's like
pay-
$20.
That's like the exact same money I paid to watch it the first time.
Yeah, well, grumble.
Then you
I'll
can
probably
own
end up- yeah, I'll probably end up doing it that way just to get it out of the way. Anyway, guys, thank you so much, obviously, for tuning in to another episode of We Watch Shudder. If you are a horror and horror-adjacent movie fan of any kind, what are you doing? It's $6 a month. Subscribe to Shudder. They don't pay us anything. We pay our $6 a month each, just like everybody else does. We just love it. Think about that. $6 a month. They're releasing anywhere from 3 to 5 brand new movies, plus a ton of archive titles every month. If you find even one movie in your month that you really enjoyed and was worth watching, you've gotten more than your $6 out of it. And they have literally hundreds of movies. Make sure you check it out.
Yep. And hopefully someday they will reach out to us and say, hey, we're going to not charge you the $6 per month because you're making us so much money by having people subscribe. I've had more people tell me that they got a Shudder membership than I think listened to this podcast. So more people have gone to watch Shudder than regularly listen to us, but they've told me it's because of us. So
Hey, I'm with it.
yay.
I will take it. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us again. We'll be back sometime soon. Say good night, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.